Welcome back to The Explainer. All right, today we are jumping headfirst into big data. We're going to unpack what it all means for your privacy and maybe more importantly, what rights you actually have. So let's kick things off with the big question. Really the question at the heart of our entire digital lives. It sounds so simple, right? But the answer, well, it's way more complicated than you think, and it touches pretty much everything you do online. And that first question immediately leads to another, maybe even more practical one. Because, okay, who owns it is one thing, but who can legally access it? That's where the rubber meets the road. Without access, ownership is just a word. The real power, it's all about access. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll dig into that whole data ownership mess. Then we'll talk about the GDPR, the new rule book, basically. After that, we'll get into your rights, what you can actually do. We'll also clear up the whole privacy versus security confusion, and then wrap up by looking at something totally different, open data.
All right, section 1, the data ownership question. And yeah, it really is more complicated than you think. Let's get right into why owning your data isn't at all like, say, owning your car. The rules are just different.
Okay, think about it like this. Your bike. If someone can get to your bike, they can't just ride off on it, right? It's your bike. You own it. Simple. But with your data, oh boy. If someone has access, what they can do with it is defined by this whole complex web of policies and contracts. It's a totally different ballgame. So here's the bottom line. We throw around the term owning our data, but really, the actual control, comes down to the fine print. It's all in the policies, the contracts, the terms of service. That's what dictates who gets to do what. So, to try and bring some kind of order to all this complexity, Europe stepped in with a really powerful new set of rules. It's basically become the global standard for data rights, and I'm pretty sure you've heard of it, GDPR. And this really shows you how fast it all happened. It got approved back in 2016, and boom, by May 2018, it was being enforced across the entire EU. It was a huge deal, one law for a whole continent, and its impact didn't stop there. It's basically become the benchmark for privacy law around the world. Okay, so what are we even talking about protecting here? Under GDPR, the term personal data is super broad. It's not just the obvious stuff like your name or email. We're talking location data, genetic data, biometric data, basically any little piece of information that can be traced back to you as a person. That's you. Now, in the world of GDPR, you got to know two key players. First up is the data controller. This is the organization calling the shots. They're the ones who decide the purposes and means, a fancy way of saying they decide why and how your personal data gets processed. Think of them as the company whose app or website you're using. And then there's the data processor. This is a separate organization that does the actual work, the processing, for the controller. A classic example is a cloud storage provider. The main company, the controller, hires them to handle the data. And yeah, they have to follow strict rules too. So, what makes companies actually listen? What gives GDPR its teeth? Well, look at that number. Fines for not complying can be up to 20 million euros, or, and this is the big one, 4% of their global turnover, whichever is higher. Trust me, a number like that gets everyone's attention fast. Okay, so we've talked about the rules and the fines, but what does all this actually mean for you? Let's get into the good stuff, your rights. Because this isn't just legal jargon, it's about what GDPR actually does for you. And this is a big one. You've probably heard of it, the right to be forgotten. It's right there in Article 17. It means you have the right to tell a controller to just erase your personal data. Poof, gone. Now, it's not a silver bullet. It has to be balanced against things like free speech, but for getting rid of that embarrassing old social media profile, yeah, it's a total game changer. Then there's Article 20, the right to data portability. And this one's just fantastic. To put it simply, you can get your data back and do whatever you want with it. The whole idea is that your data isn't locked into one service forever. You can pack it up and move it somewhere else. It gives you so much more freedom. And just so you know, this isn't some abstract legal concept. Here's what that right actually looks like in the real world. You've probably seen this on Facebook or other platforms, that download your information tool. That exists because of these laws. You can literally go, click a few buttons, and get a copy of everything they have on you. Okay, let's switch gears for a second and talk about something really important that gets mixed up all the time: privacy versus security. I know, they sound like they're the same thing, but they are absolutely not, and the difference is crucial. So let's break it down. Privacy, that's all about the rules. It's about the appropriate use of your information. It's your ability to decide what goes where. It's all about the policies. Security, on the other hand, that's about building the fortress. It's about confidentiality, integrity, making sure the data is protected from malicious attacks. It's the confidence that your privacy decisions are actually being respected. And this is the key. You can have absolutely excellent top-notch security and still have terrible, awful privacy practices. A company's data might be locked down tighter than Fort Knox, but they could still be collecting way too much of it and using it in ways you never agreed to. They are not the same thing. Okay, so we've spent a lot of time talking about protecting data, locking it down, but there's a whole other side to this coin. Data that is meant to be shared. This is what we call open data. So what is it? Well, open data is basically the idea that some data should be totally free for everyone to use and republish. No restrictions. Think about things like public transit data. When a city opens that up, developers can jump in and build all those cool map and journey planning apps we all use. It's a huge driver for innovation. But there's a really key detail here. For data to be truly open, it's not enough for it to just be out there on the internet. It needs a license that explicitly gives people permission to use it. Without that license, you might be able to see the data, but you can't legally do anything with it. The license is what makes it actually usable. And that brings us to our final thought. It's a tricky one. Let me ask you this. During something like a public health crisis, would you be okay with the government tracing your movements if it could alert others and potentially save lives? It's that classic battle between individual privacy and the collective good. There are no easy answers here, and it's something we're all going to have to grapple with more and more.